I have in my hands here today the smoking gun that demonstrates that the TGA has not been honest about the safety of the vaccine. And they knew about the risks of the vaccine back in July 2021 when a 52-year-old man passed away 7 days after receiving that Pfizer vaccine. He passed away in his own home in front of his wife and his 16-year-old son. Now, an autopsy was performed on this man, and the pathologist determined that the direct cause of death was rapidly progressing myocarditis following Pfizer COVID-19 vaccination. Now, despite that, this autopsy was eventually given to the TGA, and I'll note that the TGA said in the previous set of estimates that they don't solicit autopsy reports, that they have ignored and failed to report this side effect and this death from the vaccine. And this matters because we know that tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Australians got myocarditis and other severe vaccine injuries from the vaccine. Now, if we can't trust the TGA to be honest about this, if we can't trust the TGA to follow due process, then we have got serious issues. We have thousands of Australians out there today who cannot access compensation for the vaccine injury scheme because the TGA refuses to acknowledge the side effects from this vaccine. And yet again, I'll say it again, that the cause of this death was myocarditis. The TGA knows that myocarditis was a side effect from this vaccine, and yet they didn't tell the Australian public. Now, this is urgent because today we are still rolling out the mRNA vaccine. We are still claiming it is safe and effective. So the minister needs to explain why the health minister isn't on the phone to the TGA and the health department, requiring them to explain, not just to the minister, but to the Australian people, why they failed to inform the Australian people of the risks of that vaccine. Because this matters. Because thousands of people have been injured by the vaccine. They need to be compensated. And it also raises the other issue of how many other autopsies were sent to the TGA that they didn't bother disclosing to the Australian public. Because this is about due process. We cannot have the body, the bureaucrats who approved this vaccine, then being the same people to administer the injuries from this vaccine, because there is an inherent conflict of interest to cover up these injuries because it will show that they didn't do proper testing on this vaccine. Not that we need the evidence of that. That was in the product assessment report, page 30. But the point of it is this, is that we want to know from the TGA and the health minister how many other autopsy reports were actually performed or sent to the TGA, why the TGA doesn't feel the need to solicit autopsy reports when a reported death is sent to them. How on earth can you continuously monitor the safety of the vaccine if you're not following up on reported deaths? Now, we know that the TGA never rang the family. We know that the family has never even been compensated by the Australian government. What sort of government do we have when we mandate the rollout of a vaccine, we don't warn people about all the risks of the vaccine, and then when they get injured, we leave them without any government support whatsoever? This, I say to my fellow colleagues, is the smoking gun that demonstrates that the Australian people and even you people in this chamber were misled. I am asking you today to support my motion to ask the minister to explain why the TGA isn't held to account for the damage they have caused.